Hey guys, I want to welcome you to the Monday, May 5th edition of Speaker Co-working by SpeakerHub. This is a meeting that we do every day at 12 noon Eastern time for speakers around the world to get their questions answered about how they can get on more stages and make more impact with their message and be able to sell more of their products and services to those that they can help the most. I'm Ron Story. I am the head of membership and product at SpeakerHub. I'm always joined by Angela Lewis, who is the head of operations at SpeakerHub. And every once in a while, different team members from our team will also pop in to share their perspectives and to answer questions on more specific roles within SpeakerHub. It's always good to see familiar faces. Um, Michael, Philippa, John, Valencia, Kevin, AJ, Lawrence, other people will come in and out. So if you decide to ever join one of our calls, you're not required to stay the whole time. You're not even required to come on time. As long as you come in and show your face, we're always glad to see you. So good to see you, Janissa and Yvette. Um, but yeah, any wins? I know John started a second ago talking about his. I think he has three keynotes this week. So let's talk about those. What are they about? And it's in Chicago, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Two is at a high school. Two different. One keynote that I'm doing. It's called Ignite Your Imagination. It's at high school assemblies for two separate high schools in Hillsborough, Chicago. Then Saturday, good friend of mine is a former NFL player, Schaefer Suggs. He played for Jets back in the 70s. He's doing a football event, and I'm gonna be leading a talk around the power of decision making and problem solving around mind mapping to some youthful kids out there. So down, set, and ready, man. I'm pumped.
Hut, 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 hut.
I'm hot. I'm hot. Let's go, baby.
That's it. No, that's the attitude, man. That's cool. Any other wins so far? Lawrence, go ahead.
Well, the first one is that today I had a call with the podcast that AJ set me up with. It's called and as we were talking, they mentioned that in, I believe, December, well, next year actually, they'll be having a huge event where they'll be bringing in speakers. And they asked me about how much I charge, what would that look like, and even though nothing's signed on the books yet because they just asked about it,
No, it's a big deal.
there's great potential.
No, I
Also,
mean,
tomorrow I'll be speaking at a conference out in the Poconos for 3 days. So that's going to be a fantastic win for me.
how
And
cool is that?
those were the two wins for me.
No, that's a big deal, Lawrence. A huge deal. Poconos. Where is that even at? I hear people talk about that. I know Pocahontas. I don't know.
It's, a, it's like a water park in the far out suburbs of Chicago.
Okay, cool, man.
I live in Philadelphia, which is like the city. The Poconos is kind of like imagine a gigantic field with a water park in the middle.
Okay, cool. I thought it was like an island in the Caribbean. I'm like, maybe that's close, but no, it's in Philly, so it ain't. It's in Pennsylvania. Never heard of it up until now. So cool. Um, any other wins? Any other wins? Michael, thanks for the feedback on the drop downs and the different things on that we need to add labels to so that it makes it a bit more accessible. I really appreciate the feedback. Also, thank you for the license for JAWS. We were able to share that with our QA team. They're excited to get to working on it. And we also discovered a new feature that we're going to enable that will make it way more accessible for our users. So thank you for the feedback last week. Thank you for the continual feedback over the weekend. And, if you ask anyone here, when we hear products and feature suggestions that will improve the product, we implement them immediately. We don't wait because this is really important to us. So, but we have a feature, an accessibility view that we're going to be adding that removes the three columns and it just makes it one main column for easier accessibility instead of having three columns laterally. We didn't consider that it would just be easier to have one main column in the middle. So that's all based on our conversation from Friday. Your thoughts and feedback is invaluable, and hopefully we don't let you down. You know. Oh,
I have a
so I
win,
think Mike was
kinda.
talking. I think you're muted, Michael.
Oh,
I can't hear you. You're muted.
okay.
Okay,
You,
go
Hey,
ahead.
you
Ron.
won't, not a problem. Hello. And you made my cat very happy.
Oh, that's good. I'm glad. I'm glad. No, but thanks so much. That your feedback really means a lot.
Sure.
Yep. And Kevin and then Nicole.
I had my Toastmasters district contest, so it's kind of a win, although I'm disappointed. I got this little glass second place trophy. So I'm kind of pissed, even though I won 4 levels of first place, to go into the district and get second place kind of hurt my feelings a little bit. But but it's okay. It's okay. I'm not bitter. Oh, okay, I'm a little bitter.
But you know what they said? They said second place is usually the most disappointing award at the Olympics. The silver medal, the people who get the silver medal, they're more disappointed than anyone else, even the people then that didn't qualify, because the first place person is excited that he won, and the third place person is excited that he got a medal. And then like silver is kind of purgatory. It's kind of like I ain't in hell, but I ain't in heaven, but you know,
Right. And
and you
and
just
then
proved
it
it.
made it a little worse because something happened that will happen at professional events also, whereas the guy messed up with my microphone. So he didn't turn on my microphone, and I'm talking for a while thinking my mic is on, and it wasn't. So then he comes up on stage, and this is a competition. During the competition, he comes up on stage while I'm speaking and then just says, "Oh, let me turn on your mic." And
Yeah, you got to
it
reset.
just left a bad taste in my mouth because I could have reset, but it was already it ruined the whole thing, messed up my mind a little bit, made me have to rethink of where I was, but I still did good enough to get second place. So
No,
I'm
that's
gonna put it
incredible.
up.
We gotta make sure we don't give out sharp pieces of glass to people in second place in the future.
You got that right. I got about 10 of them back here, and yeah, I'm gonna throw myself on them later.
No, no. That's all good. It's funny. But no, congrats, man. That's a big deal. It takes a lot of courage to get out there and to put yourself out for critique. We're going to talk about some cool stuff today. Any other wins before we go forward with the topic for the day? I think Nicole
Last
was going to
week
say
I had
something.
2 wins, Ron.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm not gonna look at the screen because I'm gonna be responsible. I'm driving. I ended up getting an award. Also, I got the Bold and Confident Woman Award, and I afterwards was allowed to give a speech like saying thank you for the reward, for the award. And a lot of people in the audience, it was virtual, so a lot of the comments were, I held the ceremony and was able to articulate what the person that held the event was trying to get to. So that was good. But the more exciting part was I've been doing being a panelist on a podcast a couple of weeks in a row, and am starting to get clientele off of my podcast. So it always is great when it extrapolates to money.
There it is. High five. That's it, man. Look, all we care about is the clients, man. You got to help more people. And high five to doing the work. Bonnie.
Mm, yeah, excuse me.
Bonnie's eating the
Oh,
granola bar, guys.
I've been working hard this morning, people. Um, yeah, win in finding direction. So on Friday, I said something about the senior world, elder care, senior assisted living, blah, blah. You're like, hello, do you see something opening up for you? So I sat and pitched a ton of senior podcasts, and 3 of them since Friday afternoon. 3 of them I'm working on booking right now.
How dope is that?
That's
Look,
real dope.
when you find your people,
Yeah,
it's incredible. Look at that. She got my daughter does it, but she does it upside down. She totally can't do it right, but we got to teach her.
that's cute.
Yeah.
And then I have 3 associations in person in the East Coast that I'm also in conversation with in the same senior thing. So yeah, it's happening. Thanks.
It's a big deal, guys. Super duper exciting. Any more wins, any more bookings?
I got a win, man, that I just remembered about last week. I got a weird thing on my calendar from my Calendly, and I don't get a lot on my Calendly. So, it was an appointment for someone that wanted to talk to me someone. So I got on this appointment and it turned out to be this lady that needed I guess heard me on a podcast, but she was in Denmark and we were talking. It was midnight her time and her accent was incredibly thick, but all I can understand is I found you and I need help. I find you and I need help. And we had a great conversation. I showed her some tools and things of that nature. So we are starting to work together on a long-term relationship, contract at least for the next 6 weeks. So I've been kind of having my chest out a little bit, thinking that, now I'm an international coach, and I was like, wow, I haven't been focused on my coaching aspect of the business, but it's just been falling in my lap by way of podcasts and things of that nature, man. So that was pretty cool talking to somebody in Denmark. I don't know
Yeah.
how she found me, but it's like,
Hey,
wow.
man, you just never know who's listening. That's the
Hmm.
one thing. Like, you never know who's listening. Yeah, I mean, I got so many positive thoughts I can share, but dude, high five. Anyone else? Any more wins?
Well, I finally
share
submitted
one.
my article for the
Jackson.
magazine, the podcast and the magazine that are going to be
Oh, wait,
launched.
you got an article?
Yes, yes, it's gonna they launch the podcast. I did the podcast on Friday, and they're gonna launch the podcast and the magazine article at the same time to piggyback off each other.
No, that's
So,
incredible.
and just to highlight what John just said, the podcasts are, they're fueling out there and they're giving us up other opportunities.
Yep.
And that is, that's kind of nice. I start to pitch it's ironic what you said, because when you're pitching podcasts, but your calendar is full because people are inviting you on to interview you. Some of them want to take you right away, and it's that. When you start to pitch now, some of the conferences, they're asking for the one sheet, and so your calendar doesn't fill up as fast
Hmm.
because it's a longer process, but at least you know what it is. So I'm going to fill up my calendar again for the next week for podcasts and then go back now and start pitching some conferences.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I think you're doing it the right way. We're making some fundamental changes in the flywheel and how we teach it, but oh, side note, Kamanzi, and we meet every week, and he's like, "Who's Jasmine Dennis?" She comes to every freaking meeting, and she always has a lot of good questions. And I'm like, "Oh yeah, I know Jasmine." He was like,
Oh,
out of your SpeakerHub people, Jasmine's always here, man. He was like,
yeah.
if she starts, and his comment was, if she starts pitching articles, she'll have articles very soon because of the discipline that she already shows in just showing up. And that means a lot because Kamanzi understands that um, when you send your first pitch, you're probably going to be rejected because you're just learning how to write for that publication. And he's like, dude, if she just comes in and she pitches 5, she'll definitely land, pitch the same publication 5 times, she'll definitely land one of them because she just has to learn what that publication wants and how to write for them. So that was interesting. Kamanzi, he moved to Thailand with his family last month, but he calls me at weird hours because they're 13 hours ahead. And the topic of conversation on Saturday was Jasmine. Who is Jasmine?
No wonder my ear was ringing.
That's
And
it.
the funny thing is I've got 3 potential articles set up, but they want to see, these publications want to see samples of your writing.
Yep.
So what Kamanzi says, do something for, low level for Business Insider. So they see it, not just LinkedIn, because I've done the LinkedIn. So I'm listening to what the process is. Because when you go over there, if he's telling you, they're going to ask you for some white writing samples. I'm just saying, why send the
Oh yeah,
pictures
no,
of
no,
the
no.
samples?
What he said is you're on the right path. So just keep it up. I wanted to encourage you.
Okay.
Don't change anything. Keep doing what you're
Okay.
doing, and do more. So you're good.
Okay.
Just wanted to give you a high five for that.
High
Any-
five, Kamanzi. High five.
yeah. Kamanzi runs a pretty good business, man. I mean, he gets results, which is incredible. Any other wins before we get into the lesson for the day?
So
Right?
I had a very unexpected podcast interview. The host read my book before. It's a book I published 12 years ago. And during the book, during the interview, he had another screen up and he was literally pulling out quotes from the book and talk through the framework. So anything that you've written before, I just wanted to reiterate that it's still valuable and continue to use it because you just never know the impact of it. So that was an really incredible interview.
It's a super duper dope. Is that the same one where you're gonna be? No, I think you were doing a
That's
children's book
different.
or something.
Yes, the children's book is coming along. I'm so excited about this children's book. I'll give y'all a brief synopsis of it. It's a little girl named Destiny who's from St. Louis, and she's very tall, and she travels to Colombia for a basketball clinic with her auntie, and has this new experience, meets a bunch of other really amazing kids, learns a little bit of Spanish, and then feels more confident about herself because of travel and basketball. So excited about that one. That's going to drop this summer.
Yeah, it's pretty dope. I saw
That
the
sounds like
illustrations.
Angela to me. That little Destiny girl named Angela.
It may or may not be based on a true story. There are elements of a true story.
I started writing a book once literally about me. And then when I started writing, I go, okay, I'm going to say, I'm never ever going to admit that that's me, ever.
Well,
parts of it
we're
that
gonna
are
look
accurate.
it up. If you hear about something from somebody from Canada that was hanging out with a bunch of boxers, it was Jasmine, as the world turns. Any other questions? General Hospital, right? Any other wins before we get into it? So a couple things. One, I want to kind of walk through something with Philippa, because she had a question that I think a lot of people have about SpeakerHub and how we operate. And Philippa is one of our new SpeakerHub Pro members. So high five to her for taking the shot and giving SpeakerHub Pro a shot. But what I want to share is something that a lot of people get confused about. And we're working on trying to make that a lot simpler. So SpeakerHub is a company that I bought last year. On June the 1st, it will be 1 year of us owning it. So we will be celebrating our 1 year anniversary of SpeakerHub on June the 1st, which is actually the 10-year anniversary of SpeakerHub overall. So SpeakerHub turns 10 on June the 1st of this year. So when I bought SpeakerHub, it was just a directory. It was literally just this directory right here where you can go in and you can find speakers or you can find speaking opportunities. Because it's programmed in a different language, when we added SpeakerHub Pro, we couldn't combine them together. So it has its own separate login because all of the information in this version of SpeakerHub is publicly available and searchable by Google. So this profile, you don't need to be logged in to see Nancy Forbes's profile, right? But in order to see our speaking gigs and our podcast contact information and our associations, you have to be logged in to a separate system called SpeakerHub Pro. Currently, they do not communicate with each other because one was built on 2007 technology and the other one was built on 2025 technology. The two languages don't communicate together. At the time when this was built, the version of Drupal that this was built on is Drupal 7. Currently live, there's Drupal 13. So that software has gone through 6 generations since the original SpeakerHub was built. So they're on 2 separate platforms. One is used for inbound, right? So we need all the information public on Google so that people can search and find you inside of Google. The other one is built on outbound. This is the information we got to keep private so that we can still have a business. If we put all of our podcasts and our conference contact information publicly in the internet, then we go out of business, right? So we protect that data behind a paywall called SpeakerHub Pro. Does that make sense? All we did was copy this great company called LinkedIn that gives you a profile just like this, right? But they also have another separate program that opens up that doesn't even look like it. Looks nothing like the original LinkedIn, called Sales Navigator. It's a separate login. It's LinkedIn that you pay for versus the LinkedIn that's free. We built our business just like multi-billion-dollar LinkedIn built theirs, because the interface needs to be different because of the way that you use it. Does that make sense? So the purpose of the software has to dictate the way that it's used. So since this is Sales Navigator on LinkedIn, it doesn't look like the regular LinkedIn because this is the publicly available information. When you go and Google Andrew Brummer, it's not going to bring up what I get to see about him over here in Sales Navigator. It's going to bring up his public profile. Does that make sense, Philippa? So the two systems are separate, just like LinkedIn and LinkedIn Sales Navigator, because one is a database, the other one is a directory.
So, but on the pro side, then how do I get things like my book and stuff like that in there?
Right. So you don't put your book and things in SpeakerHub Pro. That goes in the public profile on SpeakerHub. Like you can't sell a book inside of the directory. The directory is for outreach. People aren't coming into the directory to find you.
Okay.
It's for outreach.
So do I have to pay both subscriptions then?
So currently there are two separate things. One is if you want to be in the directory with all of the fancy bells and whistles, to be able to have your speaker wheel, your speaker reel, all of your programs and all of that, that is an upgraded feature over there. We couldn't honestly and with integrity tell people that they don't have to pay for that anymore when we have thousands of people that are paying for it. Because they were like, well, why is Philippa getting it for free when I'm paying for it? On the other side, with SpeakerHub Pro, there are people there that are saying, hey, I got a speaker profile. Do I get to cancel that and get that only with Lifetime? The Lifetime is the only one that gets access to both with one payment. If you're on, some people just want the directory. Some people just want the profile. We allow you to pick what you want between the two. Does that make sense?
Okay, so but the SpeakerHub side doesn't have the list of like podcasts and journalists and stuff like that.
Nope, that's in the database.
That's in the database. Okay.
That's for outbound. For inbound, where people find you, that's what the directory is for.
Okay. So if I'm not so worried about that, I could cancel that and just keep the pro side.
Yep, you would just go to a free one over there.
Right, got it. Okay, thank you.
All right, cool. All right. Let's talk about it. This is super duper exciting, right? So I want to start with asking a question that I think is really, really, really important, right? If you could do anything that would guarantee your success, what would it be? Anything. Let's put it in the chat, or you can unmute, right? If you could do anything that would guarantee your success, what would it be?
I would say being on the news could help. If you're
being on the news?
Yeah, like if you're on a major television station where millions of people see that.
Okay, all right. Cool. So being on the news, Edge, can you make a list of these as people bring them up and put them in the chat, just in the doc? If you could do anything if you could do one thing, you got one change you can make that would guarantee your success, what would it be? Valencia,
I would love to have a major celebrity or influencer endorsement.
Okay. Celebrity endorsement. Carter says consistency. Kevin, you're about to say something?
Oh, I was just going to say, does it have to be something we change?
No.
Oh, then I would just say, just speak to more people.
Okay. All right. Anything else?
There's a
John?
saying that, the more you serve, the more you gain. So I would like, a network of, people that I could change and influence their life for greater purpose.
Okay.
I would say being disciplined at doing what I'm supposed to do when I'm supposed to do it.
I like that. Anything else? Anything we
We
missing?
have in the
AJ,
chat,
Yvette?
Yvette said, if I could do anything with guaranteed success, I would lead a global initiative that makes accessibility the default in every product, policy, place, emerging technology, education, and advocacy to ensure no one is left out because of a disability or difference.
Okay. Let me make sure I clarify the question. If you could do anything that would guarantee your success, not with guaranteed success, but if you could do one thing that would add certainty to whatever you're working on, what would that be? Jadika.
For me, I would say win-win collaborations with people within my network or within whoever I'm working with. That would be important to me. Win-win collaborations.
Okay. Cool. Anything else? These are good. These are good. They are all good and they all work. I got one I don't think anybody's thought about. And it was one that it was taught to me by my kids. Anything else?
I'm gonna take a guess at what his kid told you.
Your hand must be over your mic, Lawrence. We can't hear you.
Are you able to hear me now?
Yeah, it's still a bit muffled, but go ahead.
Okay. I said I'm gonna take a guess at what his kid said. Ask
Yeah,
more
we
people.
can't hear you. Can you type it in the chat? It's still muffled. It sounds like you got a mask on and COVID or something. Unshakable boldness. I like that. Yeah, if you can type it in the chat, that'll help. Asking more people. Yep. Like that. Right? So and I learned this from my kids. And I thought about it. I'm like, dude, why don't I do this? Right? So on Friday, my daughter came into the meeting. Do y'all remember that when she came in Friday morning and she came in and she introduced herself and she turned her head, right? And she showed her little colorful ponytail. And while she was sitting on my lap, I had said, hey guys, I want you all to, Amaya's here. And I mentioned what she said to me. She says, I'm not Amaya, I'm frozen. And I just laughed about it. It was like, oh gosh, she said she was frozen. And then she walked out with her frozen dress on and her frozen weave. She got an Elsa ponytail that's like blue and gray. It looks like it's frozen, right? But she had on the whole frozen dress and all of that. Now, she changed clothes. And I asked her, I said, hey, what happened to your outfit? And she says, I'm not Elsa no more. I'm a Maya now. And I said, holy smokes, I got to teach this because I think we miss it. And here's the thing. My son does the same thing with Spider-Man pajamas. It used to be Spider-Man. Now it's Ninja Turtles. He think he a Ninja Turtle. And bruh, the noises that kids make, I'll be like, I hope I wasn't this annoying as a kid. Right. I mean, for the last 2 weeks, he's been a Ninja Turtle, talking like the Ninja Turtles, trying to hit everybody with karate sticks. I'm like, bro, you hit me one more time with this broom, we're going to have a problem. Okay. I'm just being real. You are not Donatello. Okay. But here's the one thing that I think we all, and this is possible for every person, if we changed how we identify ourselves, right? Because the same way that when my daughter puts on that Frozen outfit, she behaves differently. And when my son twirls that daggone mop stick, he thinks he's a Ninja Turtle. When women put on a certain dress, they walk differently. They put on those heels, They walk totally different than when they got on sneakers. All of a sudden, their bodies do this. They shoulders connected to the heels because their hips start doing this when they walk in the heels. But when they got on sneakers, they just walk normal. But when they got on them heels, their whole body shake when they walk in, right? You know, my mom used to call it switching, right? Guys do the same thing. We get a haircut. Shit, you can't tell me nothing. I ain't even got no hair, but you give me a haircut. You know, ain't nothing like a man with a haircut. He got superpowers. But nothing changed about him but his identity. Nothing changed but how he identified themselves. Right? I'm willing to step out and say that what's holding 90% of speakers back is that they're identifying as speakers. They're not identifying in their true identity of an entrepreneur. So they're an entrepreneur that identify as speakers, which is a problem because they're doing the behaviors that would make a successful speaker successful, but not that would make a successful entrepreneur successful. Right? So the famous speaker waits to get chosen, has everybody beating down their door, trying to pick them to speak, wants to know their topic, all of those things. But the entrepreneur is a go-getter. We going out. We ain't waiting on somebody to find me in a directory. We, like Philippa said, I don't need that. I'm a go-getter. I don't need this wait around thing. I need this go get it thing. I'm going to cancel this wait around thing and use y'all go get it thing. How we identify ourselves is really important. That self-image, that being courageous, right? That I know I got it. That's long lasting and genuine is really important. Now, here's the funny thing. I never saw my daughter put on that that Frozen outfit and look in the mirror and do some affirmations. Never saw my son put on Donatello and swing them daggone sticks in my house, knocking stuff over. Or when he plays soccer, he has no problem kicking a soccer ball in the house, right? And I'm like, dude, you got a soccer goal outside. Go outside. But I'm messy. I ain't gonna break nothing. I'm messy. I'm just as good as messy. Yeah, you're messy. You're making my house messy. That's all. You're not Lionel messy. You're leaving a mess, right? But I've never seen him give himself affirmations. Never. Oh, I'm gonna be messy today. I got a positive self-talk and I never see him do that. You know why? Because your identity doesn't speak a language. It doesn't speak English, it don't speak Spanish, it don't speak Hindu, it don't speak German, it don't speak Mandarin, it speaks action. Speaks action. Right? I can tell you that the Bonnie that we see today is not the same Bonnie that we used to see in January. Go check the tapes. Like as John would say, go check the game footage. The level of swag that Bonnie walks in here with now wasn't because we motivated her. It was because she acted. She aligned the actions with the identity that she wanted to have. It was no motivational talk. I told you, I'm a perspirational speaker. I'm not a motivational speaker. Right? Her actions aligned with her identity, so her confidence went up. That's what we call cognitive dissonance, where we have this identity, but we ain't doing the work, so we get low self-esteem. I'm this. Okay, are you doing that? Nah, so I gotta hide. I don't want nobody to know I ain't really this. So I gotta not show it to nobody. Because this is what I identify as, but I ain't doing the work to get that, to do that, to be that. So I hide. I go look over here. Don't nobody look at me. Right? So we feel like the kid. Imagine an adult walking around with a costume on. And everybody knows that my daughter really ain't Elsa. We know she ain't Elsa, she black. That's the first problem. She ain't Elsa, right? She more Moana than Elsa, right? But imagine, but how many of us walk around with those costumes? I'm the world's greatest speaker. I'm this. I am such and such. I am this. See, I love the anxiety Avenger thing because Bonnie finally got her superpowers. Beforehand, she was Spider-Man just shooting webs on folks. She didn't really, you know how at the beginning of Spider-Man, he just webbing everybody, and Logan was just cutting stuff, and Incredible Hulk, he didn't realize when he got angry, he would tear up the whole studio. So he had to control his anger so he didn't tear up the science experiments. That's how we all start off at first. But once we get used to them down the cello nunchucks or whatever, now we cool. But it only comes with action. Is this making sense? So the identity thing, who is it that you want to be? Who is it that your future self in 5 years is going to be proud of? That the future self in 10 years is going to be proud of? And then do what they would do today. Right? Let me tell you how I know you already do this, but you do it in the wrong order. You know what we do? I turn 47 next month. I have this conversation 3 times a day. Man, if I could go back to being 19, I would do this. Man, if I would go back to being 35, man, the world would be different. If I could redo this, I would have left the country earlier. I would have did this. I would have went to these other places and all these things. We already do it backwards. Those are called regrets. When you do it the other way, it's called regret minimization. Minimalization. I don't know if I said that right, but it's regret minimalization going forward, because I'm just going to start doing the things I need to do so that when I get there, I ain't looking back saying, I wish I did. I'm saying, look at what I did. This is really important, guys, because this identity determines who we are, right? When I first bought SpeakerHub, I thought I was working with speakers. No, I work with entrepreneurs. The people that follow me are people that are like me. Birds of a feather flock together. We ain't here by mistake. There's 64,000 other people that won't come to this meeting because they don't want to deal with the identity crisis that they're having. They're having a personal identity crisis. On the public, I get paid this to speak. In reality, they ain't been paid to speak since COVID. Why? Because they won't do the work that's necessary. I know it ain't a pretty speech, man. It ain't a pretty lesson. But good Lord, it was impactful to me to watch. My daughter she said, don't be telling them I'm a Maya, I'm Elsa. I'm frozen. She was like, I'm frozen. I'm not a Maya. And that was a huge lesson, right? Who are we? Right? In 5 years, who will we be? Do that work today. Let's open it up to questions. Does this make sense,
what you're
guys?
saying. Yeah, I got what you're saying, Ron. It goes right back to I was actively teaching class. I remember I think I told you guys a story of a lady saw Lennox walking by the aerobics room and she came out all sweaty and she goes, "Oh my God, I think that girl eats nails for breakfast." She just turns into a whole different. So Lennox would come and say, "What the hell do you do with those people in there?" Because I have to go in there with it. If I want to keep at a certain, I just decide the level I want to have it at and to keep them motivated through that level. So I had to become a totally different person. So I get what you're saying right here now. And I think most of us, probably do that we're a little bit lax here and we talk in a different lax, but when you go on, if you see me in a podcast, you probably say, she's a little bit more. I'm still very fun, the
Yeah,
hands
but
go all over the place.
100%. I think during the podcast, you're a podcast guest. And that's what you should do. You put on that identity. right? When you're on stage, you're a public speaker. You put on that identity, and which you should. When I'm on stage, I turn off the entrepreneur thing and I turn on the public speaker thing. But I spend more time off stage. I build a business not as a ingresses. Here comes Elsa. Come on, come in. Come on. She's Gabby today. She's not Elsa. Come on. You want to say hi? See, I don't know if y'all know Gabby. Gabby with the toy house. Hey, good to see you.
Oh,
Say hi.
she's just daddy. It's a daddy's girl.
That's it. That's it.
Hi, man.
Who you know on here? Who you know? You know who's that? Keenan Essa. Hey, no, diga no microfono. Ella quiere escuchar. ¿Quién es esa?
Angie.
Angie. ¿En quién es este?
Tío.
Tío quién? Tío. Yeah, she says, oh, that's Aunt Angie and Uncle AJ. Okay, I need to finish my meeting. Right? But we put on the costumes we need, right? All I'm saying is, what's the identity underneath when we're not? Hasta luego, baby. When we're not on stage, because those are the actions that we have to take. So we got to take the bold action of the entrepreneur in order to get the speaking gigs. Does that make sense? We got to take the bold actions of the entrepreneur in order to sell more books. But even when you're writing the book, Kevin, you're the author, right? There used to be a TV show called He-Man, and it had a dude called Many-Face, and he could turn his head, and his head would turn around, and he would have a different face depending on the situation he was in, right? And he had like a helmet he could turn and make his faces different, right? That's kind of how we have to be. But the majority of our time, when it comes to the activities that allow us to do the other things, it probably needs to be a different identity. And this is something that I'm dealing with myself, because I know the potential that we have with SpeakerHub. But I can't imagine being the person to reach that potential. That makes let me tell you what I mean. How many of y'all would be happy if you made $5 million a year? If you had a business that was doing $5 million a year, right? We all would be happy there, right? So I was talking to someone that is coaching me on some different things, and I said, if you were running this business, what would you do? Now I'm thinking, if we get to 5 million, this is great. Like, who gonna poop on that? Like, it's a good business, $5 million bucks. He said, I'm gonna go raise 20 and try to take this to 100 in the next 5 years. I'm like, shit, how? I can't even imagine how I would spend $20 million, not to mention I would go raise 20 to try to get to 100. I'm like, bro, I'm lost. Why? Because I can't identify that. My superhero powers don't go that far. Does that make sense? Yeah, let me give you a greater example of this. John, when you were in the league, you're in the football league, how many guys were just happy to make it to the NFL?
Majority.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they
majority.
don't last. But it's the guys who say, I want to be the greatest ever. I want to be a Hall of Famer. I want to be an all pro. I want to be, and then they got this work ethic because they're like, just getting to the league ain't enough. I want to be here. And just getting here ain't enough. I want to be here and I want to be here. So they end up lasting for 10, 15 years, putting their bodies through all types of illogical stuff to try to still get there.
Call it that Mamba mentality.
Yeah, right?
Being a GOAT.
100%. What's the identity? So that I would raise 20. I'm like, dude, he willing to go borrow more than what my goal was. Totally changed my brain. I'm like, man, am I doing SpeakerHub a disservice if I don't let somebody else come run this thing? Right? Now, why is that important? Because sometimes if you can't, every superhero has weaknesses. Sometimes Batman needs Robin. And he also needed Alfred. And Iron Man needed, what was the thing? Jarvis, and then he built some little bitty Iron Man. Sometimes we have to find people that can fill in our weaknesses to allow us to be the superhero in spite of our weaknesses. So if you're here and you're struggling to pitch, you may need to get someone to pitch for you. You know how to do it, but sometimes you get in your own way. You got to learn to succeed in spite of yourself. Right? Ann is traveling the world, but Janisa and her team is always here. Right? And Michelle, they're always here. So that while she's out being a superhero in Europe, they're still making sure that the donuts are getting made. Right? So that's the talk for the day, man. I thought it was about identity. It was a lesson I learned from that little girl that just walked in here. And she ain't Elsa today. She is Gabby. Is Gabby Casa de Muñecas. I get tired of hearing that daggone song. But Gabby's Dollhouse on Netflix. Check it out if you got grandkids. I promise you, they love that goofy cat that's on there. Any comments or anything to add to what we're talking about today? I would change my identity. I think the other things on the list are great, but changing how we identify ourselves and who we call ourselves costs nothing. And it's also not dependent on someone else. To build a better network, it's dependent on someone else. To get introduced by a celebrity is dependent upon that celebrity saying yes. You being able to change your identity and your activity is all on you. You can control that.
Yeah, Ron, I totally agree with what you're saying. This is the core of my flagship message and product with my I Am Mind Map, is to get people really clear on who they are, because we're only going to do what we identify ourselves as being. I remember listening to Tony Robbins years ago, and he talked about, if you are there's a difference between someone who gambles and a gambler. There's a difference between someone who dances and a dancer. There's a difference from someone who lies from a liar. And however you identify yourself as being will dictate your behavior and your overall outcome and your ability to love life, which again is just the core of my message, really to help people get clear on who they are and make sure it's in alignment with what they're trying to achieve in their lives. Because a lot of people are trying to do stuff that aren't in alignment with their identity. And, they're either falling short or working hard to reach for a goal, and only to find out that the goal is not bringing them fulfillment that they thought it would, because that goal wasn't really in alignment with their identity. So I think you're spot on with the message, man. I appreciate it. I needed to hear it again.
No, high five. I think when you shared earlier, I was like, oh, John gonna love this one
Yes,
today when
sir.
you was talking about it. So and
Who are you?
the fundraising thing was wild to me because I've paid for everything myself. And I've been treated so bad by venture capital firms and things like that, trying to take advantage of me in the past or not really believing in what I was working on, that I just blocked that whole world off. Right? It's not that venture capital is bad or any of those things are bad. I made it bad because I wasn't prepared. Do you see what I mean? Like we will stunt our own growth because we're not good enough just yet. Does that make sense? And it limits the identity, right?
That what you're saying actually is in a book I read once called Who Not How by
Yep.
Dr. Benjamin Hardy and Dan O'Sullivan. And it talks about how if you're good at this thing and this is your thing that you really want to do and you're inspired by, why should you go on your roof and repair your roof? Why should you be doing your plumbing? You hire somebody to do those menial things because that's who they are. That's their business. You're here to do your business and what you're good at, what you enjoy, where your talent is.
100%. I 100% agree with that. And a lot of times it's because of our budgetary limitations, right?
Mhm.
Which is another identity. How many of y'all like to save money?
I don't like to.
Right? Most of us like to save money. It's part of our identity, right? It's one of the most limiting things I ever had to deal with. Growing up in East St. Louis, you ain't got a lot. You making a way out of no way. Helps me to be innovative, but it's also limiting because I don't look, I didn't, I'm better at it now, but I didn't used to look at things as investments. I looked at them as expenses. I could do this cheaper. Yeah, but it's going to take me more time and it's going to be done halfway. I should have just bought this, right? I can make this at home. The McDonald's hamburgers at home ain't never tasted. All attention, all parents. We got McDonald's hamburgers at home. No, you don't. We all done said, we got McDonald's at home. That Wonder Bread with the thick piece of tomato, that is not McDonald's. Okay? Them are not nuggets. When y'all go home and y'all give them a chicken leg, them ain't nuggets. These ain't McDonald's. I hear that all the time. But so many times we limit ourselves, right? I'll tell you a story. I always invite friends out. On Fridays, I always go out to dinner. And I always invite my friends, right? And I don't think they've paid for it in 4 months. I pay for it every time, just off GP, just for myself, right? And I don't think they realize that I never asked them to pay. And they still tell me no. And I'm like, what are you doing? Oh, no, I'm gonna stay home. Dude, ain't no limit. Well, just go. Like, I ain't never asked you to pay. I gotta get out the house. But their limit gets in the way of something that's free. Now that I mentioned it, AJ probably mentions, damn, I haven't paid for dinner since January, right? But you'll be surprised how many people tell me, oh, I ain't coming today. Oh, I'm gonna do this instead. And I'm like, dude, just come. You gotta eat. But our own limits in our minds. I don't want to be dependent on someone. I don't want this person to see me that way. I don't need somebody else doing that. Dude, shut up and go. Do you see what I mean? Like, go on the podcast. Well, man, I don't know if they're going to pay. Shut up and go. Are you a speaker or are you not a speaker? Because most speakers are whores. Let me explain to you what I mean. They only showing up if they get paid. They don't believe in the message. They want the money. They're whores. They're whores with a message. They preach all this. I got the message. My message can change the world only if you pay me to hear it. Get up out of here. Get up out of here. I'm just being real. Y'all know it's true. And then when you hear him, you're like, dude, you was terrible. Like, we paid all this money. This wasn't even worth it. All right. Don't identify as a whore. Let me make sure. Don't put that on YouTube. I'm talking about the garden tool, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That ain't gonna make it to YouTube.
No, I'm texting Ray right now.
But y'all get it. Y'all get it.
That's gonna be a viral clip.
hey, man, make it viral. I don't care. Them folks ain't my customers anyway. You know, let them keep selling themselves. Any other questions or comments? We got 2 minutes left in today's call before we go into overtime. But how do we identify? Who are you? Remember we talked about the chicken and the eagles, right? It was an eagle walking around with chicken until he looked around and realized I'm with these folks, but I ain't these people. Right? These are the folks I grew up around, but what do they say? Grass and trees both grow in the same dirt. Just because you grew up in the same dirt don't mean you're the same. Grass, trees, and flowers all come from the same soil. You get to pick who you want to be. Weeds in there too. It's the weeds. The weeds come out the same dirt. Right? All right. Anything else, guys? This is pretty cool, man. This is an important thing. Lessons taught to me by my little kids. Anything else?
Well, what did the Bible say? Out of the mouth of babes, we could all look, if we could learn a lot from looking at kids, because they're, number one, they're the real deal. They're brutally honest. Okay, which is what, when we get older, the older we get, kind of start color things up a bit. They're
Mhm.
brutal, honest, and I always look at kids and marvel at them.
Yeah, man. My daughter, she don't know how to lie yet.
Yeah.
So we play hide and seek, and I'd say, Amaya, where you at? She said, I'm over here. Perfect. I will. She don't know how to not tell me the truth. So she just tell me where she at all the time. It is so funny. And everybody laughs. She has no idea. She thinks we're celebrating me finding her, but she just don't know how to lie and be quiet. So I'm like, stay just like this. I got about 3 more weeks before she figure it out. Her brother gonna teach her because he be lying all the time. Any other questions or comments? All right, guys, this was good. Good to see you guys. We're going to end on time today. I'll talk to y'all later. Find out who you want to be in 5 years and do what they would do. All right, talk to you later. Bye-bye.